Once, in the bustling town of Rivertown, there was a man named Samuel, known to everyone as a successful and ambitious entrepreneur. He owned a chain of flourishing stores, was respected by his peers, and lived a life many envied. Samuel had it all: wealth, respect, a loving wife, and a beautiful home. Yet, despite his many blessings, he was never satisfied. His obsession with growth, power, and wealth consumed him. His workdays stretched endlessly, and he began neglecting his relationships, especially with his wife, Clara, who often found herself alone in their grand home. One day, everything changed. A sudden and severe economic crisis struck the town. Samuel's stores, heavily invested in risky ventures, quickly crumbled under the weight of the market crash. His assets, once so abundant, became worthless. Creditors knocked on his door, his business partners turned their backs, and soon, Samuel's wealth dissolved like dust in the wind. But the loss didn't stop there. Clara, unable to cope with the intense pressure of their situation and Samuel's increasing emotional distance, left him. His family was torn apart, his reputation tarnished, and his friends disappeared, too, as they watched his once pristine empire crumble to the ground. Alone and broken, Samuel retreated to his once grand home, now quiet and hollow. Every night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, asking himself how everything had gone so wrong. He couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of emptiness and despair. The world he had built, the world that had defined him, had collapsed. For the first time in his life, Samuel felt completely lost. Months passed. Samuel, now living a much simpler life, worked odd jobs to survive. He sold small trinkets, repaired broken appliances, and did manual labor in the nearby village. As he spent his days laboring in the shadows of the life he had once known, he began to notice something strange happening to him. His daily struggles made him keenly aware of the little things, something he had never paid attention to before. One morning, while walking to a job, he passed a weathered old man sitting by the riverbank, his hands carefully carving a piece of wood into a small bird. Samuel, who had often walked by this spot in the past without a second thought, found himself curious. He stopped. "Do you mind if I sit with you for a moment?" Samuel asked the old man. "Not at all," the old man replied with a slow smile, never pausing in his carving. For hours, they sat together, exchanging little more than quiet observations. The old man carved, and Samuel spoke of his past life, his businesses, his losses, his regrets. He confessed that he didn't know how to begin again. His wealth had defined him, and without it, he felt empty. The old man paused, his weathered hands gently placing the small wooden bird down on the ground. "You know, the birds in the sky don't mourn the days they've lost. They simply fly. They don't look back at the nests they've left behind. They don't measure their worth by how high they've flown or how far they've traveled. They just spread their wings and soar." Samuel looked at the bird, then back at the old man. "But I've lost everything. How can I move forward?" The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling with unspoken wisdom. "When the storm comes, the tree doesn't question its roots. It simply waits for the wind to pass, and then it grows again." The words struck Samuel deeply. For the first time, he realized something. He had been so focused on the life he had built, the identity he had constructed around wealth and success, that he had forgotten what truly mattered. He had been chasing something external, something fleeting. He had neglected his inner roots, his values, and the relationships that had once been the foundation of his happiness. The old man's simple words started a transformation in Samuel. He realized that losing everything was not the end. It was the beginning of something new. It was not the loss that defined him, it was how he chose to rise again. For the next year, Samuel worked tirelessly not to rebuild his business, but to rebuild his life. He focused on the small things, helping his neighbors, being kind to those in need, and slowly regaining the trust of the people who had once supported him. He began to see beauty in the simplest moments: a shared meal, a conversation with an old friend, the sound of the wind through the trees. Slowly, Samuel started to rebuild his relationships, starting with Clara, who had once been his partner in life, and now, in his transformation, he saw her with new eyes. One evening, after months of quiet reflection and slow progress, Samuel walked to the riverbank where he had first met the old man. There, sitting by the water, was Clara. Her face was lined with time, but there was a soft glow in her eyes that Samuel hadn't seen in years. "I've been thinking a lot," Clara said, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "About us. About everything we lost." Samuel sat beside her, the weight of his past failures no longer pressing down on him. "I've been thinking too," he said. "I've realized that I wasn't living for the right reasons. I was so obsessed with external things, I forgot what really mattered. I forgot about us, about love, about the simple joys." Clara smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I think we both lost our way," she said. "But maybe we can find it again." And so they did. Slowly but surely, Samuel and Clara rebuilt not just their relationship, but their lives. Together, they opened a small community store that didn't focus on luxury or grandeur but on helping the people around them. Samuel found that by giving back, by focusing on what he could offer others rather than what he could gain, he began to heal. Years later, when people in Rivertown spoke of Samuel, they no longer talked about his wealth or business prowess. They spoke of the quiet strength he had shown in the face of his losses, of how he had become a man who had learned the true meaning of success, not from how much he had accumulated, but from how much he had learned to give. Samuel had lost everything, but in the process, he had found something far greater: the wisdom of resilience, the power of humility, and the truth that life's true riches were not measured by material wealth, but by the depth of love and connection we cultivate. Moral of the story: true wealth is not defined by what we have, but by who we are and how we treat others. When everything is lost, the real challenge is to rebuild from within. The strength to rise again comes not from external possessions but from internal resilience, love, and humility.